In this video, I'm going to show you how I make my what I call professional extension cords. I just use standard 12-3 cabling, and I wrap it in this expandable sleeving. Basically, here's an example of it. It's just pushed together, it expands, and just seems to work better for my applications. It lets the cable drag over things easier without getting hung up so much. So these are the ends I use. They are Marinco ends. I can show you the part numbers here. So there are the part numbers for the plug and the receptacle. I like these because they have this kind of grommeted back end here, and they tend not to catch on things as much as some of the other ends that you can install on cables. So to get started, we'll go ahead and take this cable, which I've already applied the sleeving to, and in order to make it easier to slide stuff onto the cable, I'm just going to go ahead and tape the sleeving to the end here temporarily, just so that when I try to put on the heat shrink tubing and the end of the plugs, it doesn't try to push the sleeving down the cable. It'll just stay here. All right, once that's done, I like to go ahead and put on some clear heat shrink tubing. This will go over the label I'm going to place on the cable at the end here. So let's go ahead and get this opened up, slide it on, one on each side. All right, then once that's on, we can go ahead and place the end of the receptacle over the cable here. And then after that, put one more piece of heat shrink, and that's gonna seal the end of the sleeving here into the plug. Same thing with this end. Receptacle end, slide that on, slide on another piece of heat shrink. Alrighty, so once all that's on, we can go ahead and remove this tape. And then the next step is going to be to strip the sheathing off this cable. I like to just use a utility knife. Let's go ahead and lightly score around the end. And then after that, you can kind of score out to the edge. And it should peel off rather easily. All right, and there you go. So once that's off, we can get rid of the inner paper. Just cut that out of the way. And then once that's out of the way, we can start stripping the insulation off these wires. Now, another reason I like these plugs is because they're clearly marked. You can see there's a green, a black, and a white. And then that also corresponds to the correct color screw as well. So as long as you're paying attention, it's hard to mess up and put the wire in the wrong location. So just kind of look and see where the wires are going to end up. In this case, it's going to look something like that. So I can go ahead and actually cut off a little bit of this because I'm not going to need it all. So just going to cut off about that much. Alrighty. Then I can go ahead and strip back the insulation. There we go. Once that's stripped, I like to just kind of twist the ends together a little more. That'll help ensure that all the strands make it into the receptacle. Get everything organized again. All right. Now we take our either end, the receptacle end, and we will go ahead and make sure the little clamp inside is loosened all the way. Okay. Once that's done, we can line up the colors. There we go. Go ahead and make sure the insulation goes in past the end of that hole there. And then we can go ahead and tighten it down. Right. One final check and then go ahead and cinch everything down. Right. As you can see, green to green, white to white, and black to black. All right, then after that, we can go ahead and put the heat shrink on here. We'll go ahead and shrink that up. All right, once that's shrunk on there, just kind of let it cool a second. In fact, while that's cooling, I'm just going to go ahead and remove the tape from this end. Go ahead and get this wire stripped. Alrighty, now that that's cooled a little bit, we can go ahead and bring the cover on. Go ahead and line up the tabs here. And go ahead and screw it on. All right, once that's screwed on, go ahead and tighten up the strain relief, remembering to alternate the sides of the screws you're tightening. And then once you feel that it's tight, go ahead and stop. And that's one end done. So now we can move to the next end. We already have stripped off here. Again, just kind of like to see where the cables are going to end up. Then I can cut them to length. There we go. Strip off the insulation. Twist the ends. Get everything lined up. Expand the inner clamp. guide the cables in. All right, there we go. Tighten everything down. All right, then I double check to make sure all the colors are correct, and they are. I gotta give it one final tightening. All right, once those have been tightened, go ahead and bring up the heat shrink. And then we'll go ahead and shrink this end on. Okay, and again, we'll let that cool a second so that I can slip the cover over. Alrighty, line up the little tab in here. Go ahead and screw it on. Once that's tight, go ahead and tighten the strain relief. All right, happy with that. And now, one of the final steps is I like to label these cables so that when they end up in the pile of all the other cables, I know these ones are mine. So I'm just gonna put a little label on here. And then over the label, put this piece of clear heat shrink. That way the label will actually stay on there and be a little protected. Shrink this on. And put one on the other side as well. And then this expandable sleeving is also another form of identification you can use. You can use a different color for different cable lengths, or if you just want to pick one color for all your cables. All right. All right, and then the last step is I like to add a little piece of rope that can be used to tie the cable together, and it just lets you transport it and store it a little easier. So the knot I'm going to use is a constrictor knot. So we'll just go ahead and wrap it around here. Try to get the ends somewhat even. There we go. cinch that up. I kind of prefer this to the Velcro straps because that way this is always attached to the cable and it's not going to grab on like carpet and stuff like that the Velcro tends to grab onto. So once that's on, just go ahead and tie it around the cable and then go ahead and tie it just like you're tying a shoe. And that's it. One professional looking extension cord.